It's time for challenge number 3 in the next Dark Star competition, and we are talking to, 4 of the top 11 contestants who made it through. So congratulations to all of you guys. You came through and you showed everybody what it's all about. So let's start from Ethan and get to know Ethan again. How you doing, Ethan?
Good. How are y'all?
We're doing really good. Everything is lovely. How'd you like that last challenge?
I was terrified the entire time. I think I practiced it like 75 times.
Yeah.
I talked with a friend who read the entire series. I did everything short of reading the books and listening to the audio myself, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think that's important, to get some of the backstory of the different characters. It informs what you're doing, and clearly it worked because here you are. Cammie Havens, you did a good job as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. How'd you feel about that competition?
I loved it. I have read the books, and it was really fun to put my spin on those characters. And I really enjoyed the different, there being so many different characters that we got to switch into and play. I loved it. It was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a good time, reading the sisters, because they do have like so many colorful characters and different personalities that they write for. Kristin Nugent, how are you?
I am good. I'm a little tired. I'm actually in Ireland right now, so I'm 6 hours ahead of you guys. So it's
Are you really? Oh, so it's
Yeah.
it's late for
It's
you.
late. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, what are you doing in Ireland?
Vacation.
Wow.
Well-timed vacation, I guess.
That's not a bad trip, and you're escaping all the heat,
Yes.
that we're getting ready to go into.
Yes,
So,
which is
yeah,
lovely.
Ireland is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you feel about that last competition?
It was really fun. I agree with Cammie. I've read the books, and I really enjoyed putting my own spin on the characters, and the fact that we had all the different characters to do. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Did you listen to
No,
that
I
particular
didn't.
book?
I didn't. No.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably a blessing. Like, it's hard, I think, to like, do your own take on it when it's already been done. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of a challenge. How about you, Andy?
I'm great. I don't. What's the question?
Well, basically, how are you feeling? Are you?
I'm feeling great. I have no fever this time. I'm not sick, so I
Yeah.
feel great about this session.
That's right. Yeah, you were struggling with some. Was it like a flu or?
I had strep throat and sinusitis, but I wasn't diagnosed till the next morning. It was bad. I've never had strep as an adult, so it really took me out.
Wow. I got strep throat all the time as a kid. Like, I was always getting strep throat, and like it was a guaranteed twice a year, all the time that I was growing up. And then when I was about 12 or 13, the doctor said, "All right, you get strep throat one more time and we're taking those tonsils out."
No.
And I never got strep throat again. So
I think that's scared your tonsils into relaxing.
Yeah, I think that's all I needed. So I'm going to introduce our mentor in a second here, because I'm really excited. Marnye and I, we go back a ways, and really, I can't tell you, there aren't many people I admire more than Marnye. Not only for her acting ability, but she's a fellow entrepreneur and pretty amazing business owner. But so Marnye, our last challenge was called Gender Bender, and it was a combination of how could you do a convincing character that was opposite your gender, and we got some great input from our mentors. And so we had Samantha Brentmore and Teddy Hamilton and Julie Huss and Vanessa Moyen, and so they gave great great coaching to the competitors, and then once the submissions came in, we went back and we like listened to their submissions and got got their input on how our competitors did. So, and this was it was a scene which was pretty cool. The sisters, Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, wrote this book. And this particular, there were two books, one from the boys' point of view and one from the girls' point of view. So we did the same scene as from different paradigm, and so it was pretty cool. So we got to hear the story from both sides, and the different each of the contestants got a chance to read a lot of the same lines. So that was pretty interesting. So, Marnye, before I talk about the challenge that we're going into right now, I want to learn a little bit more about you and your background and what brings you to us today.
Well, you asked me, and I said, yeah, I love. No, my background is, I'm an actor. I got my MFA from Yale, or Dave Geffen School of Drama, now is what they call it.
Oh, really?
Big old name. Well, because he made it possible so that nobody ever has to pay tuition again.
Wow.
He gave an obscene amount of money.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
That's David Geffen, as in like Geffen Records? I think.
No, probably, maybe. I don't know. I should probably know.
I think there can't be two David Geffens.
Probably not. And he has a lot of money, so records would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had an agent and had two agents. Got out of grad school, blah blah blah, and then I got pregnant with twins and had to sort of change things around and started doing audiobooks, and then created my own company in 2018. Brought him that we connected because you already knew JT, right? You had already done work for her.
I don't think you introduced me to JT Geisinger.
I know that you're her muse now, so I kind of thought you were always in sync. Okay, well, so that's how I met him, because I was playing opposite him in this duet through my company.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's really it. I still act. I've still done a couple of films. Nothing really on stage, because that's difficult with twins and
right.
And they've got some stuff going on, so I couldn't really leave. I had a couple opportunities, but I couldn't really go because it didn't make sense.
Marnye, I got to tell you, every time I see a video of yours on, if you get a chance, follow Marnye on Audio Sorceress and Marnye on Instagram, because those you do a lot of sessions with
Tempt Me Tuesday. Yeah.
And I love watching those.
Thank you, they're so fun.
It really it's like it's as somebody who I guess I don't know what you would call me, but I'm just not, I'm not formally trained. And so when I see you perform these scripts, I've seen you do Shakespeare and it's just like, when you watch Marnye and you go, oh, that's how it's supposed to be done. Okay.
Thank you, Troy.
I really admire you. And I do admire your work. You've produced some amazing titles, and you're really well known as not just a consummate professional in the world of audiobooks, but I think that you have, Audio Sorceress books have a certain special sauce. And so
I like to think so.
Yeah. So whenever I do a book for Audio Sorceress, I feel confident, like it's going to sound great. So
what we shoot for every time. That's
always a good feeling to work for you. So thank you very much for being our mentor today.
My pleasure.
It's really exciting. I think that we're going to have a really good time with this one, because
of course.
So the next Dark Star is this is a romance a romance-centered competition. Of course, our contestants will probably branch out into other aspects. But if you're going to be a romance narrator, you're going to need to know how to do the sexy time. So we have a special, let's call it an intimate scene that we're going to ask our contestants to perform in. And they're going to give us their best way to bring that intimacy out of that audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got this script
Yep.
from Lily Casey,
Mm-hmm.
and just a wonderful writer. And she wrote this book called Holding On Today. And I was fortunate enough to read Mac's part, the male, the MMC, and Angelina Rocca was our FMC. And so there were some scenes in here that I thought were really pretty special. And so when we were looking for the right script, we came upon this one love scene from Holding On Today. So do you think it would be good for me to share a screen and show you guys the script while
They haven't seen it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got it too. Yeah.
You've got it in front of you?
Yep.
All right. Let me do this. I think I'm going to share my screen anyway, so that way when we're looking at the videos, we can we can read along while we're doing the thing. If only I can figure out how to share my screen. Let's see. Screen.
Also, how do I mute myself so you don't hear me like drinking water or whatever?
I think they're at the bottom of your screen.
So
there's like
a
microphone that would be.
Now it's saying you can mute while recording, but you can't switch. I don't want to switch mics. I just want to mute. This is giving me like 1,200 different mics to choose from. That's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Speaker? No, that wouldn't.
That's the curse of being a professional audio person, is that you probably have a setup that's more complicated than the the Logitech cam mic.
Right, I'll try to be as quiet as. I apologize in advance. I will try to be as quiet as possible. I'm used to just being able to push mute, so if I make any noises, no one hears.
Okay, well, so I think now I understand what you're saying. Like you have, it gives you a whole bunch of
yeah, I
things.
can't see.
Just as you hover over the microphone, if you click on that, it will mute it for you. See, it totally worked. All right. So, let's do this. Let's start with how about Cammie? You think you want to give it a shot? You want to be our first?
Fine, Troy.
All right. You can do this. I know you can do this. So what we're going to do, Marnye, is we're going to have Cammie read maybe the first paragraph, and then we can give some input on that first paragraph, if that sounds good. You can give her any kind of input that you have on that.
Only the
Ready?
only the first paragraph, Troy, even though it's short. You just want me to do the top paragraph?
I'll tell you what. Yeah, go ahead and do the whole thing.
Okay.
I'm ready for it. I'm going to mute.
Okay.
Any second now. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything she may have said. Silencing anything she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer. His thumb massaged her. His fingers sank into her. His mouth devoured hers. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and she was clinging to him for dear life. Shuddering beneath his touch and crying out against his lips, she started to unravel, her head beginning to toss as she all but tried to climb him with the one leg still hooked around him. He forced her head still as he watched her. Her leg beneath her threatened to buckle. Her fingers clawed at his flesh. She bucked against him, biting his lip in her heightened state. And when she exploded, arching off the wall into him, she watched him devour her response, memorizing every eyelash flutter, tremble of muscle in her belly, panted breath, and the whisper of his name.
Good job, Cami.
Thank you.
Woo.
Marty, what do you think? Do you have ways that we can add?
Yes,
Add sizzle?
I do with some. So what I would say is right now, I love your commitment to the text in terms of like the stakes are. This is a sexy time. The stakes are high, but what I'm missing is the nuance. So you have this. You do have this nice build, but you also start in a very intense place, and I get it because the writing grasping, these are intense, but the problem is the thing is, if you have so much intention through the words, I miss the through line of what's happening. So I love that there's a train and that it's going, and I love that you are into it. It's almost like I hate to use this word, I need you to pull back a little more.
Okay.
Let there be a bit more mystery. Remember, you don't know what you're going to say. Even as the narrator, you know what I mean? You don't know what you're going to say. Don't play the end. I love the through line of it, the positivity that it is infused with. This is exciting. This is sexy. This is all these things. So I want to go back. I don't know how you work, Troy. Can I go?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I also don't know, do people chime in? Sorry guys, I've never done this process before.
Yeah, no,
so
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think when you said you're finding out at the same time, that's really important. You need to be on this ride.
Yeah.
Along
on
with
this ride.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So also another thing, and this is very, very technical, but it's going to help you. Always use the punctuation. Like, you have a terrific author here. She has written punctuation. She has your commas. She has your periods. There are paragraphs. It is so important. And that will help you, Cami, with the build. You don't have to put anything on it because the writing is so good. The words are so visceral that I feel like, as connected as you are, if you kind of just use the words, like, it's already infused, it's already there for you. So let's go back.
Okay.
And let's pay attention to, and I may stop you, it's only because if I see you're not paying attention to the punctuation, and it's so important. And so what I mean by that is there's a comma, right?
She's gonna smack you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can smack me. Grassing.
No.
Cami's gonna smack
Yeah,
me.
you're gonna. Yeah, I'm like picturing you with your ruler.
Yeah. I'm very, no, I don't, I'm just very, I get very intense. He knows I'm very passionate about what I do. So grasping her jaw, there's a what after jaw?
Comma.
Right. And then pressed closer, there's a what?
Comma.
Lowering. And then we have after said, there's a
period.
So there's a baby breath. I don't want you, a train is not coming by, but you need just a little bit. And at the same time, what's after time?
Comma.
What's after between her legs?
Comma.
Yes. So just keeping that in mind, those are your little like your little flags, and it will help you with the build that you have kind of made that is actually there for you. You don't have to do anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what your background is, so forgive me if I use language that is, is something that you're not used to, or you're like, oh my gosh, I know this. She's treating me like just say, I get it. So I know. It. Okay, awesome.
Okay. Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in.
Okay, Cami, I'm so sorry. I'm going to just stop you. Yes, so much better. Could you feel the difference between that. And then
Mhm.
what I would say to you, in terms of, and again, these are very technical, but it will help you.
Yes.
Watch, if you're gonna like stress something, or you're gonna, and like technical, it's gonna be the verb or it's going to be the noun, because what happens is between there's so much on between that I miss the noun, which is her what?
Her legs.
Right. That's really important, because then you start about slowly in her and it's look at that. Look
Right.
at the alliteration, sliding slowly in her slickness. Oh,
Isn't it funny how
so good.
writers do that a lot?
It's
There's a lot
brilliant.
of alliteration.
It's
Yeah.
brilliant. It's poetic, and it's
Mhm.
sexy. There's the, like, it's steamy, it's sexy, and
Mhm.
it's all there in the words. I'm
You know,
obsessed with words,
yeah,
and
you know, the
this is why
writing the
this is
writing
so great.
seems to be very lyrical, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Very.
way that she writes, and I don't know if it's useful to you or not. You know, I think that, like, if you're like, I'm a visual learner, like
Mm-hmm.
I learn best by watching and doing. And so sometimes if I mark up my script, I'm going to do it with, you know, I would with the with all of these commas in here, and if this is the beginning of this scene, so it's, you know, this is more of the foreplay scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would draw little waves over each of those phrases, you know, grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he
Mm-hmm.
pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. It's like a, you know, like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, like you're on a swing, you know,
Yeah.
and you go up and
Yeah.
up and then
Yeah.
down to a nice you know, cushiony bottom.
Yep. Yeah. And so you felt that, though, you felt that those commas, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome, because there was a big difference between the first and how you did it now. Now, do we have another minute with her, or I don't know how
Sure.
much?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're good. We're about halfway through, so.
Okay. So let me just go back. So then okay. Okay, so okay, the only other thing I would say, try and, like I said, you're so connected. See if you can actually, it's a lack of a better, distance yourself a bit from it, because it's so emotionally laden right now that I'm not quite getting the story. And again, I feel like you aren't trusting yourself. You know what I mean? Or trusting the text, or maybe both. But if you trust yourself and you trust the text, all of the investment that you've done after reading this and just making it a part of you, it will be there. You know? Okay, so I'm going to shut up again, and I won't stop you, and then we can talk about, that first paragraph again. Or you can talk about how you felt about it.
Do you want me to start at the top again?
Yeah,
Andi?
do you mind?
Okay. No, I don't mind. Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slower in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer.
Yeah, I think that's much better. How did
Yeah.
you feel?
Good.
Great. And I think you could even, dare I say it, even a tiny bit more distance, and keep just using the text, keep looking at those commas, keep exploring how that feels, because the language is so sensual. It is so sexy.
Mm-hmm.
And the drive that you've created, it will be there. But that's really lovely, Cami. I hope that
Mhm.
you feel the difference between where you started,
100%.
which was nice, but this is more nuanced. It's more I get more of you, and I get more of the story. Although I know that sounds weird, it's actually true.
No, I totally get
Um,
it. Thank you so much,
yeah,
Marnye.
lovely job. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Kristin, how about you? Are you ready to rock and roll and give it a shot?
Oh, I think so.
All right, let me just.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Grasping her jaw, He angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer. His thumb massaged her. His fingers sank into her. His mouth devoured hers. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and she was clinging to him for dear life. Shuddering beneath his touch and crying out against his lips, she started to unravel, her head beginning to toss as she all but tried to climb him with the one leg still hooked around him. He forced her head still as he watched her. Her leg beneath her threatened to buckle. Her fingers clawed at his flesh. She bucked against him, biting at his lips in her heightened state. And when she exploded, arching off the wall into him, she watched him devour her response, memorizing every eyelash flutter, tremble of muscle in her belly, panted breath, and the whisper of his name.
Nice.
Okay, Kristin. Yes, yeah, very nice. Yes, everybody's so talented, Troy. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
I know why you guys made it to the. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to take. I love the pacing. I thought the pacing was fantastic. I loved your great use of the punctuation. One thing I would say to you is be careful that it doesn't stay the same, kind of in the same place. So it's very lovely. It's very, the pacing is lovely. It all flows. It's just, it kind of started, you kind of ended where you started. And it's not that I need something huge. I just need a little more from you. You know what I mean? Like I hear what you're doing and I want more. I want a little more digging into some of these words, digging into some of these, these verbs, a little bit dirtier. For like it's almost too perfect, Kristin, if that makes sense. And I know you're like, what? How could this be? No, but this is romance, honey. We need to get dirty. No, but what I mean too is with it's a little too perfect. It's a little too careful. So be a little bit more gutsy with it. Be a little bit more. I think just dig even more than you already are, which is lovely. I want more from you. Okay. So can we go, Troy, can we go back to that first paragraph? Is that?
Yeah, sure. I think that'll be a good idea. I would like to maybe if I can give you a little bit of something I think that helps to keep it from going at the same pace is look for you can look for contrasts. And one of those contrasts would be his kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand. And so you could use that to, don't lose the opportunity to pull out that contrast. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand. So it's kind of like, like she was being stopped, or she was being held back from crying out, but her body was doing all of the talking. And so that might be an opportunity to kind of like draw some, make that one paragraph have a little bit more texture.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's great advice. Yep, definitely.
Thank you. Okay. I'll mute.
Okay. Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer. Better-ish?
Yeah. I thought that was great. No, that was. Could you feel that? Could you feel like a tug and things kind of like, I loved what he had said, where going one way, but then it's going another way. Like it was there was more, there was just more, there was more nuance. There was more,
it seemed a little more intense.
yeah.
And I think that
Yep.
might be like what was missing in the first one. It sounded like a love story.
Mm-hmm.
The first time you read it, this sounded more like a love scene.
Love story.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yep.
So
No, that was lovely. Yeah. Thank you.
all right. So how about we go for Andy?
Let me put two minutes.
All right. Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer. His thumb massaged her. His fingers sank into her. His mouth devoured hers. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and she was clinging to him for dear life. Shuddering beneath his touch and crying out against his lips, she started to unravel, her head beginning to toss as she all but tried to climb him with the one leg still hooked around him. He forced her head still as he watched her. Her leg beneath her threatened to buckle. Her fingers clawed at his flesh. She bucked against him, biting at his lips in her heightened state. And when she exploded, arching off the wall into him, she watched him devour her response, memorizing every eyelash flutter, tremble of muscle in her belly, panted breath, and the whisper of his name.
Good job, Andy. Yeah, I like that. The way that you you took those 3 paragraphs and made them a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's just started out as intense enough, but then as it comes to the middle, you're reaching for the for the crest, and then I felt you kind of like riding back down to the bottom. What? What?
Nothing.
Was it me, or was it something that Brandon did? It must have been something Brandon did.
No, it's good. It's good. We're good.
All right.
I mean, yeah, I agree with him. Yeah, I love that you build and you come back down, and you sort of build and you come back. You're going with the words, with the story, and I heard everything. I heard exactly what was happening, and it was lovely. And yes, the 3 separate paragraphs. I didn't know what was coming next, and I love that. It felt very like now in the moment. The only thing I would say, because it's my job, I have to say so. Okay,
give it to
right
him.
For all of you, just know that that's why he's brought me in here, is to tell you stuff, not to just tell you all the things that are wonderful, because there's plenty of things that are wonderful.
We all want to get better. Give us the good
tweak.
stuff.
Be careful of cutting. I'm going to say this, but there are exceptions. Be careful of cutting the sentences up. And what I mean by that is watch, and you're not, what's his face from Star Trek. It's not that. But there are little tiny, what I would call, do you know what a caesura is? Like no. Shakespeare? Okay. Anyway, it's like a tiny little pause. It's like a tiny little, and yes, you can have them. Absolutely, you can have them. But there were a few too many for me in terms of when you have, and the whisper of his name.
Yeah,
and totally. The whisper of his, right. Oh, and how much more power. Well, I get it. It's sort of that setup, and then but you can still do the setup, Andy. Don't think you can't do that. Just don't let because when you do those little, and they're subtle, they're very subtle. And again, it's my ear. I'm picking up, the energy drops.
Yeah.
Just a hair. And I want to totally it's a sexy scene, but the beauty of the sexy is that there's tension, right? Yeah. There's that taut, he's that intense, it's in mystery thrillers. You hold that little, it's taut. Kind of like they're there's sex. Like, what's right? It's,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Until
Yeah.
boing, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's almost as if the story continues after
yes.
this
Mhm.
paragraph.
Yes. And it's not that there's a ton of them, but I'm trying to,
Mhm.
I'm supposed to tweak.
Mhm.
So that is what I hear, these little, and so I lose, and I've lost that sentence now, and the energy is kind of dropped.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's being ultra nitpicky, though. I mean, otherwise, yeah, I mean, it was lovely. Your pacing was great. The building, everything that he had talked about, how you know,
Mhm.
visiting the contrasts, you found all that beautifully, using the language to get what you want. You
It's
know,
one of those less is
yeah.
more kind of things, isn't it?
Mhm.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like you didn't come with any emotion. You let the text work on you. You didn't work on the text. Does that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice.
The text works on you. We're really great writers, and you'll, you know, if you're working with Troy, or you know, you're going to have great writers. You know, you're going to have, because you don't always, as we all know.
Mhm. Yeah,
Sure.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
That's the challenge, right? Like,
yeah.
to make a, it's your job is to make the writing good.
Yes.
If it's, if it is, if it's lacking, then you need to infuse it
Yeah, but in
with
this
meaning.
case, I mean, and usually, I mean, I would say like 99%. I mean, I've just been fortunate, but the writing's been fantastic, and
Yeah, I
it's
think
just a matter
if
of,
somebody's
yeah,
investing the money to create an audiobook and they're
yeah,
paying,
Mhm.
yeah, they're giving you the best.
yeah, they're giving you the goods.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, just remember, and I guess I can go to all of you too, that you don't put anything on the text. You let the text work on you.
Oh, that's really, I love that. That's a great,
So,
that's a great way to put it. Like let that text move through you instead of
mhm,
like, placing yourself on it.
mhm.
Cause I think that's the times that that I feel like, oh, okay, I need to be this guy, or I need to, what does this, this kind of guy sound like? It's like I'm losing the meaning of the text and just
Mhm.
trying to be some person.
Mhm.
And if you let that text, if you let those words kind of like move through you and tell
Mhm.
you what their what the emotion is, then you'll be like much more engaged.
I will say this, you know, across the board, all of you have made a lovely connection to the text, and I really like
Mhm.
that's just innate, as you know, that can't be taught. Like that
Yeah.
connection, immediate connection between the gut and the
Mhm.
mind, you know, and that's lovely. And I know that Troy said he doesn't come from a theater, but it doesn't, as we all know, it's innate for him. You
Yeah.
know, you just get it. So
Yeah.
these are like little things that are going to help you, you know. And of course, if there's anything I said that you feel is not helpful, by all means, throw it out. That is one thing I learned. It was made very clear to me. Take it all in, say, yes, yes. And
Mhm.
then you decide if it's not useful, get rid of it, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. It's like, here are all these tools,
Mhm.
and you can pick them out of your bag and use them at your pleasure if it moves your performance, to to something that is more meaningful for you. So,
Yep.
all right. So now we have the opportunity to hear this very same scene from the male perspective with Mr. Ethan Gray. Ethan, are you ready for us?
Sure am, guys. I'm ready. Sorry, I couldn't
Awesome,
get
man.
that. I don't
Keep
know why
that.
that happened.
You
I
keep that
apologize.
voice right there. You're
It
gonna
came
you're
right
gonna
out of me.
knock
I'm
them dead.
sorry.
All right, here we go.
Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer. His thumb massaged her, his fingers sank into her, his mouth devoured hers. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and she was clinging to him for dear life. Shuddering beneath his touch and crying out against his lips, she started to unravel, her head beginning to toss as she all but tried to climb him with one leg still hooked around him. He forced her head still as he watched her. Her leg beneath her threatened to buckle. Her fingers clawed at his flesh. She bucked against him, biting at his lips in her heightened state, and when she exploded, arching off the wall into him. She watched him devour her response, memorizing every eyelash flutter, tremble of muscle in her belly, panted breath, and the whisper of his name. It is
Good
1,000,000
job.
degrees in my
Yeah.
booth, so I'm turning my fan back on. Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Cool. Okay. So I would say slow down.
Mhm.
I hear that.
But it's not. It's only in so much as punctuation is going to be your
Yeah.
best friend, Ethan. Commas, commas, commas all over the place. Appreciate those commas. They are the writer put blood, sweat, and tears into those commas, and we can't bulldoze over them. They will help you. They will make sure that there is subtlety and there is nuance and there is everything that you want this to be, and that it is sexy and that it is engaging and all of the and that keeps that thing taut. I'm very text based. That's the way I am, and that's how I coach. So I want to take it back. Because it was grasping your jaw, he angled her head back. Whoa, 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 what? So I want you to look at
Okay.
that pause. And if you don't pause enough for me, I'm going to stop you and make you go back.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
All right? Because that's how
All
I work. Okay, so that's my one feeling for now. I just want to hear what happens when you use the commas.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, Ethan.
Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he
Die.
pressed
That was a shajura. Not good enough for me, Ethan.
All right.
Go back. I'm not just picking on you because you're the only dude
No,
here.
no, I appreciate.
It's going to help you. I promise. It is going to serve you.
Hey, I appreciate it. Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer.
Okay, I'm going to stop you. Okay, so yes. How did that feel?
Good.
Good.
I think
Great.
I always rush, I think I rush it every time I do it live. This is why I do
Sure.
a million takes when I actually record.
Oh, yeah. No, I mess up all the time. I mean, it's just part of my life. I mess up a lot. So what I would say to you, can you do me a favor? I
Yeah.
know that you're doing this very sultry, very sexy, like into the mic. Are you really close to the mic when you're
I'm
doing
about
this?
6 inches away.
Okay,
I can turn
perfect.
my-
No. I don't want you to do anything. I do want you. I hear your voice now, and I hear what you're doing, this romantic, sexy, sultry. Can you just for fun,
Sure.
I get it. I get the sultry. It's very hot. It's very sexy. Can you just do like this, Ethan? Can I just hear this?
Yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right, let me.
Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back. Oh, that was too fast. Grasping her jaw, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. At the same time, his fingers found their way between her legs, sliding slowly in her slickness before diving in. His kiss swallowed her cry, but her body convulsed against his hand, the leg around his hip pressing inward, pulling him closer.
Christ, that's a million times better.
Yeah, it really makes it.
Yeah.
It really makes a difference.
That's
Ethan.
great.
Yeah, and it's so much closer to who you are. So because what I felt, Ethan, and I felt I'm doing romance, and I'm not saying you wouldn't get you. I don't know how many audiobooks you might have done 100. I don't know. So please don't take this. I have a company. I look for very specific things, and I don't just want a sexy romance. Well, I understand that's what other people want.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I need the acting chops that go with that. So I want to get closer to your sound, because actually your normal sound is lovely and still very sexy and very sultry. And honestly, the energy when you brought yourself, your own voice to it, was so much. You breathed a new life into
That was nice. It was
that,
really nice.
listen, he's a producer, um,
Mhm.
so,
Well, so the thing is, I've gone it was a long lesson that me getting to that point as well.
Right.
I always
okay.
I felt
I've
like I
done a
had to
lot of
sound a
voiceover.
certain way, and when I
Yeah,
stopped, yeah,
don't do that. Yeah, see, Troy learned the hard way. Stop
yeah,
it.
mhm,
Well,
Stop
I
it,
appreciate it.
Ethan. So, and yes, I loved, you caught yourself when you went too fast, didn't you? You caught
Yeah.
yourself because you just kind of, and then we missed the story, and we
mhm,
missed this awesome love scene that you're about to tell, because you're painting. Remember that you are always painting a picture for
mhm,
us, so that
Right.
you're seeing that. If you're not seeing the movie in your mind, then you're listening to your own voice, and that's boring.
mhm,
Yeah.
So always see that movie in your mind, because if you see it, we see it.
mhm.
Um,
Besides that, it makes it easier for you to communicate it as
oh
well,
yeah.
because you're like,
Oh
it makes it a lot more fun, right? Like
yeah.
if you're picturing this in your mind,
Hmm.
you become a voyeur,
Hmm.
and you're telling the story to to somebody. Like maybe you're talking to your wife about stumbling in on a on a scene, and if you're telling her that,
Oh yeah.
then
Yeah.
it's like so much more
Hmm.
intimate, and if you're picturing it in your mind while you're doing it, much hotter.
Yep.
Yeah, much
Agreed.
harder.
Totally
It's
agreed.
funny, there if you look at the really really good narrators that are very well known, one of the things that they have in common is that they are really their own person. When you listen to Zach Weber talk, he sounds pretty much like he does in the book. Like when he's talking, you hear it's that's what you hear when he's reading a book. And the same thing for Teddy Hamilton, Tara Langella. The as they're talking, they're like you can almost picture them talking to you in that in that scene. And I think that what you just did is was like night and day. It was so much more intimate the way that you did it that last time.
Thank
So
you
So
both. I really
trust
appreciate
that.
it.
Trust yourself. Trust that your voice. Trust that your voice is fantastic the way it is, and you don't have to put anything on it. You don't have to
right.
be. And also, you know what that does, Ethan? That locks you into a certain a mood almost, and you never want that, because you've created this voice and you've created this.
Mhm.
So when you that freed you, and I think that's why you messed up more, because it
Mhm.
freed you in a way, so you didn't know what, you stumbled a little bit like you were very, I think you were pretty smooth the first time, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I love that because it was more of you. I
Yeah.
got more of you, and therefore, like he was saying, the voyeur, it was hotter, it was sexier.
Mhm.
You let me feel things, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. I just did that. um, anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I got.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing I would say is like, so there's a couple of over. Well, I'll give you a specific thing, and this is kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if it's useful or not to like throw in all sorts of like little technical tricks to the into the mix. But there's another contrast here in this one sentence where it says, um, he angled her head back as he pressed closer, lowering his head and silencing anything else she may have said. That's an opportunity to kind of like draw a contrast between, here's what, this is what her head is doing, and then his head did something else. I know that sounds like too super sexy that way, but that's one thing. But I think overall, for if I could give, and I harp on this a lot, but I think it's a common thing, especially as you're learning the narration game. We tend to keep the same pace through all of the sentences that we read, and they all sound the same pretty much, from one line to the next. And if you take the time to, like this is in the less is more category, when you have a really tasty phrase, I don't know, his kiss swallowed her cry. If you can pick out the tastiest phrase in there, and then drag that out, maybe give it a little pause between each one, or make it a some kind of a lyrical kind of way to do it, but take your time on it, then it makes the words a little more easy to follow along with, and you're not lulling your listener into a daze. If because that's just not the way we talk. Like, we talk in spurts of fast and then slowly. Like, if we have something to prove, if we have an important point, then we'll slow down and we'll take our time with certain words. And I would say that's one of the things that you might pay attention to as you're reading, making sure that you're not making all of your sentences the same pace.
Thank you both. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. So, are you guys ready for your to create your submissions? Do you have any questions? You got Marnye here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Great. So we come across some of these lines that they can get a little bit long-winded. And I know that you've mentioned paying attention to the punctuation, and that can kind of give us little breath pauses. But for me, there's a line in the middle of the second paragraph that I have struggled to get through without sounding like I'm running out of gas. You know what I mean? So how do you approach those lines where there's like a sprint to the finish, but you don't want to sprint it?
For me, I definitely take a breath. It's just not a loud one. I look for a place where it's natural, because as he was saying, we don't talk. Obviously, we don't all, wait for commas, and we don't all we're all over the place. Our speech is not, but in terms of intelligibility, we kind of have to do these things to continue so that listeners can follow too. So I take breath, so are you talking about the shuddering beneath his touch and cry? Yeah, it's huge.
It's
no, and it goes on, and it's lovely, it's beautiful. But how do you honor that and also breathe?
Yeah.
Right. So that by the end, around him, not,
Yeah.
So, but what's lovely though, if you take advantage of those commas, and it's not that you have to take a huge breath. I think it should really help you in terms of, because you can take a catch breath. It just, you just don't want it so audible that, his lips, she started to unravel, you can, against his lips. She started to unravel, right? It was subtle, but hopefully it didn't, I don't know what was happening through the mic, but hopefully it wasn't this,
Yeah.
I think, if you wanted to just run that with us real quick to see if that would help you to really use those commas and take advantage, like a bear. And we can tell you too, if we can hear, and if it slows down, if it slows you down at all.
Okay.
Do you want? Is that okay, Troy? Because I think it would be
absolutely.
beneficial.
No, I think that's a
everybody
great
here.
idea. Yeah, because that is a problem, and especially when you're doing like emotional or sexy stuff, finding those pauses is important.
And even if you can't get them, we can go ahead and look and say, okay, well, where is there a natural pause where you could put even an extra breath in there? Maybe her head beginning to touch. That's a lot. Just that alone, even though you have that comma before unravel, that's still a lot. And you may need that if you're emotionally in some place or whatever. So we can look at that. But I'm going to shut up so that you can do this.
Okay. I'm also a loud breather too. So.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Okay. Shuddering beneath his touch and crying out against his lips, she started to unravel, her head beginning to toss as she all but tried to climb him with the one leg still hooked around him. I didn't take a breath at all.
Yeah, I think that but I think there was a baby breath in there, but tried beginning to toss as she all but tried to, I don't know, there was some, it worked like that. That worked. I thought it worked fine.
Yeah.
And you were okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, if there are parts in there where if you wanted to divide it up equally, you could give each phrase its own weight.
You did have a baby breath. Sorry. You did have a baby breath after toss, her head beginning to toss as she all but tried to climb him with one leg still hooked around him.
I think that would be a good
yeah.
good
Well, and I think she actually did that. I think that's why you didn't run out of air. So guys, sorry, guys, I'm used to saying guys.
It's
Kristin, Kemi, and Ethan. So for Andi, so you saw what she did. She put just a natural pause. It wasn't a huge, and she just took that. That was a little tiny bit of air, but I didn't notice it. I didn't hear it. I just heard it. And it made sense. It worked with the text. It worked, Troy is right. If you ever have to make that note, as you're going through, you're like, oh my gosh, the sentence is a paragraph, which
4 lines
will
long.
happen. I've definitely,
Oh yeah.
and I'm sure Troy has too, I'm up to, I think he's at 500. I'm up to almost 300. And believe me, I have seen where there's like almost the entire paragraph is one sentence. So you
And yeah,
have to. You're
and
gonna like,
some writers, it's there are some very good writers who do that.
yes,
You know.
absolutely. It's their way of
Mhm.
writing. And so in
Yeah.
order to honor that and not pass out, you have to, put some natural, and it works. Like I'd say in the end too, trust yourself. Trust that you're in the moment, because you guys are all so talented. Trust when that you're in that it's just going to be there. And if you take that pause, whether there's a comma there or not, it can still, that's why I'm saying there's exceptions. So as
Yeah.
much as I want you to go through to the end of the line, not always. Not
Yeah,
always, right?
you could run it. You could run right through. Like so, like I said, like Lily Casey, the way that she writes is very lyrical, and a
Mhm.
lot of this feels like poetry as she's writing it.
Mhm.
You've got shuddering beneath his touch and crying out against his lips. She started to unravel, her head beginning to toss as she all but tried to climb him with one. It's like a poem. Like
Mhm.
you've got like different
Gorgeous. Language is
lines, and
gorgeous.
so you could use those to and it would like give that little paragraph some love,
Mhm.
you know.
That's
Yep.
helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great question, and
Yeah,
something that we all deal with. So it was a great question.
yeah. This is really cool. Marnie, you're such a great coach. I really love
Oh,
listening. Like
thanks.
I listen to what you're telling these guys, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I should do that. I need to pay attention to like the way I'm doing these
Oh,
things.
thank you. Well,
So
I love coaching. I'm very passionate. As long as you're okay with me, like all up in your grill, very much in your, it's because I get so
yeah,
excited
Ethan, are
and
you
I
okay?
can't help myself. I know, right? I said, stop it.
But I
I
No,
think
I
don't,
love
yeah,
that.
I
yeah, I
think she
don't
did a
tend to
great job.
censor myself. So, when it
Mm-mm.
comes to something like this, I'm just very, for lack of balls to the wall, or, ovaries to the wall, whatever you
Yeah,
want to say.
yeah,
I,
It's
I don't
like,
want to
yeah.
speak for other. I don't want to speak for other people, but I only have 4 books out. I'll have 8 in the next month. So
fantastic.
this type of coaching is exactly what I'm looking for long term. I want to
Mhm.
be an actor, audiobook narrator. I don't want to just
Wonderful.
read self-help
Yeah,
books. I want to act them out. And so
That's great.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
Andy had a great, when she said, hey, we're not here to, for you to tell us how great we sound. We need the good stuff. So I think that's a great way to look
hurt my
at it. Like,
feelings.
yeah, anything that, anything we can do to help you to, get to that, to that next,
Absolutely.
that next point, I think
Mhm.
is cool. And that's the fun thing. I mean, Marnie, you can tell that you love coaching. Like you're a very good teacher
Thank
because you're so
you.
passionate about it. So
Oh, thank you.
you
Well,
know,
you guys are great students, right? Great.
well,
Everybody's been
yeah.
wonderful.
So we're
So
going to be getting together. I think on the what is it? I think it's the 11th that we'll be getting together with all of the other mentors in the challenge. We'll have an opportunity to hear the contestants and how they did with your direction.
oh,
So
fantastic.
it's gonna be really interesting to get these submissions and listen back to them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Awesome.
thank you all very much. We have a short window of time for the submissions. Get those submissions in, and I know that there are some. There are a little bit different rules for this one here. If you don't want to post it to TikTok, if you've got a PG audience that you don't want to chase them away, then feel free to simply send it up to the Dropbox folder, and we will take care of putting it onto the YouTube. Does that sound good? All right.
Sounds good.
Everybody good? Ready to rock and roll on your submission?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Best of luck,
Good.
everybody. Break
Yeah.
Thank you,
legs.
Marnie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Yes,
so
Thank you,
thank you
Marnie.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good job, guys. Take care. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
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 There. All right. I'll stay in the studio. Hi, guys. So what do you think? Oh, let me stop recording.